If we can all settle down, I see quite a lot of familiar faces. Hello, second floor. Hi. I can see you've just had another lecture session before this, so we understand. Yes? All ears. So you are in the right place as long as you are an IBMS student at the moment. That's good. So if we can settle down. And I promise this isn't anything that you've ever done before. It doesn't sound or seem like any of the subjects you've followed before. I'm pitching this thing that we're about to do right now, if you haven't figured that out already. Okay. Can I have a show of hands? How many first years are currently in the hall? All right. Woo-hoo. Second. Shout out for the second years. Third. All right, you will persist, my friends. Good. I expect no fourth years here because ideally they are doing their internships at the moment. Okay. Now, I've got the words "a curious mind" on the stage, and I hope I see a lot of them in front of me right now, and I hope to engage with you to help you retain and exploit that curiosity that ideally you all have oodles of in you. All right? Now, this series of guest lectures that Ms. Feldman-Tentori here and I and Ms. Moore are helping to organize is to enable you to find out more and be more because of maybe just what you want to know, but also the people that you will be hearing and people that you will be engaging with in the course of these series of lectures. I want to start off, and it's so far very vague, I get it. Hello, come on, have a seat. With a quote from Brian Grazer, who wrote a book called A Curious Mind, and note, the secret to a bigger life, not a more successful life, not a more interesting life, just a bigger life. Okay? And it is important for me that I share this quote with you because I am this small Indian woman, right? If you've ever stood next to me, you know how small I am. How do I lead a bigger life? Yes, heels help, but not always, and not always in the right way. So for me, a bigger life is being more of myself, or learning more, becoming more, and being more as well. Yeah? So we're all trapped in our own way of thinking, trapped in our own way of relating to people. We get so used to seeing the world our way that we come to think that the world is the way we see it. Right? You might not be aware of how trapped you are presently. But as human beings, we have this tendency to find out where we are most comfortable, settle in that place, and not move, because that's the easy thing to do, right? I'm going to sit in the seat, and I'm not moving. Every time we have a workshop, and I say we're going to form different groups, I can hear a moan, "Oh, Mr. Bohm, seriously? I have to move now? I just settled in." You know, we understand that. We understand that's because you like being comfortable and cozy, yeah? But often when we get to that comfort zone, we trap ourselves in it because we stop being curious. And that's where the danger starts, because we stop being interested. And when we stop being interested, we don't want to grow anymore. We can't grow. We think we might be growing. For a long time, there's this lull where we think, oh, you know, I am doing everything that a person my age with my qualifications should be able to do at the moment. Yes. But like if you had seen The Truman Show, you know, what you might see as just a natural progression and life happening to you and you growing up might just all be this construct that you yourself put yourself inside. And it's kind of debilitating. So when it's too late, you might find out. So we want to give you avenues to grow and keep that curiosity as much as possible. So more curiosity equals more knowledge. More knowledge means you're better equipped to deal with changing situations. And if ever that was the case, right now, politically, economically, climatically, we are there, changing situations, having to make decisions on our feet every single day. Even your generation, as it is a student, is having to face these moments. So how? Very simple, because you just have more avenues to get solutions from. Does that make sense? Just logic, right? So we do have to allow for those things to take place. So in these series of lectures, talks, activities that we have planned for you on these Monday afternoons, we hope that you will participate, right? We don't force you. We expect you to be naturally curious. And we invite a lot of interesting guest lecturers. We invite a lot of people that are experts in their fields. And oftentimes, we think, well, why should I be hearing from that field at all? Because I'm a business student. And my answer to that would be, yes, that is the reason why you should be listening to them, because you're a business student. Or because you're a student, end of story. Yeah? So participate to gain knowledge, obviously, and conquer your fears. From a personal point of view, my fears had a lot to do with the limited amount of things I knew as a person growing up. If you'd asked me about 15 years ago, if I pictured myself in the Netherlands talking to people from 40 different nationalities in an auditorium, I would have laughed at you. Right? But I learned, I observed people, I became curious. I said, as much as I know of people like me that didn't do that, I knew hardly anything about people that did. So I went after the people that did, and I learned from them. And I observed, and I went, actually, why not? I got out of my comfort zone. And I think if I can do that, then that might be something I can contribute to this stage, to give you the opportunity to do that as well. So come conquer your fears and tell great stories. A lot of marketing isn't really what you're selling, it is how you're putting the message across. Become better storytellers. And often, you can't really learn that, step 1, 2, 3. You observe, you listen to others who are very good at telling stories. And then you start imitating them. And then you fake it until it becomes your storytelling technique. Right? So it isn't something you can learn from a book. And connect with people. Learn to network. Listen to someone present. Come, shake their hands, introduce yourself, and compliment them or talk to them about the thing that they talk to you about. That is powerful networking for you. And obviously, improve relationships. If you have more knowledge, then you can save relationships that are at a decline, and you can make relationships, create relationships where before there was none. All right? So the power really is in your hands if you are curious enough to engage in this exercise. And that leads to my little story of how I found out I could shatter Ewoks. So here's a little clip.
I remember a chemistry lesson at school, and it still, to me, was one of the most beautiful things I'd ever seen. This chemistry master came in, and someone had prepared in the, some liquid nitrogen. We didn't quite know what it was. And he came with this beautiful rose he just picked from the garden, and he just dipped the rose in like that for a second, and then smashed it on the table, and it shattered like glass into 1,000 pieces. You may say, oh, how destructive, and yet it was somehow staggeringly beautiful. The idea that you could alter the state of something at such speed that it could suddenly become, from being the softest, most malleable thing. Isn't that lovely? Don't you think that's gorgeous?
Beautiful.
Yeah.
It is.
We just
I think you're humouring me.
No.
You want me to go back to foreskins?
No, I think it's a hilarious Valentine's Day prank. There you go. It's not for you!
Can you imagine the surface of Saturn's moon Titan? That's so cold that it's got
Oh, hang on, I
liquid
know
methane.
Titan.
Liquid
Titan's
methane.
the one where the Ewoks live.
Titan, yes.
You see? So, hang on, I've got it. So basically, you're saying you can shatter an Ewok?
Yes, because it's got lakes of liquid methane.
Wow.
Because it's so cold. And the methane behaves exactly like water on Earth. So you get rain, methane rain, you get methane snow, methane ice, and lakes of methane. There's a lake there which is as large as Lake Superior.
Of methane, which is essentially a fart, liquid fart.
Yes, exactly.
I don't want to go there. Strike it off.
You know what? If I could stand on a planet and throw an Ewok into a lake of fart, that'd just be... that'd be like...
Smash it into
Well,
a
you
fart.
couldn't, because it'd shatter. So you
Even better! So I could be tossing Ewoks into a lake of fart.
It's your heaven. Everyone has their own heaven. That's
That
yours.
is... Oh.
when you say tossing Ewoks into a lake,
Steady.
No, that's exactly what I meant. You know what? After this show finishes...
So the lesson there was, if you ever want to shatter an Ewok, go to Titan, because they have lakes of methane. And I learned a little bit when I watched that QI episode, apparently. Methane is what does the trick. But it gives me immense pleasure to always think about this little exchange. And that's something that I wouldn't have taken if I wasn't curious enough, and someone was not a good storyteller, And that's the kind of thing that we would like for you to have when you're done with this series of lectures as well. So now, I'd like to invite Ms. Feldman to give you her 2 cents.
Hi. So for the first years, I don't think I've met you yet. I'm Miss Feldman Tentori, and the second and third years I've met before. I recognise a few faces here. So I'm going to take a bit of time today to talk about the power of pitching, presenting, and sharing ideas. So this week, it's us. We work here at the Hague University, but we have a strong network of people that work outside of here who would like to come and share their ideas with you. But it doesn't matter if you have the most amazing ideas, if you can't stand up and talk about them and share them, they just get completely lost. So we're also here today, we'll be here when we finish today because we'd like to hear from you as well. Who would you like to listen to? We're working on getting a few certain people in, but we're also open to what you would like to hear and what ideas you have. But today, first, we're going to break down what makes a good pitch or presentation, and how you could actually do that and get up here on this stage. So what is public speaking, pitching and presenting? Who's it relevant to? Why is it actually even important? And how do you learn the skills? I would actually say that of all the skills that I've learned in my life, getting up and standing here and being able to speak, even at very short notice sometimes, is one of the best skills I have ever learned in my career and has made a massive impact. How many of you would be quite happy to come and stand here right now? Okay, good. Quite a few of you. Good, I need 5 volunteers shortly, so I'll be looking for those hands. But it is not an easy thing to do. Let's talk first about fear. This is my husband. Those who don't know me, can you tell from my accent where I'm from, although I'm mixing it up a bit at the moment? Australia, mate. If I talk Aussie, then you'll really know. This is my Dutch husband, 6'6", big, tall Dutch man. I met him when he was backpacking in Australia 15 years ago, and we now have 2 children and living happily ever after in the Netherlands. Can you see what's there in the back? And snake and a spider. My husband is terrified of snakes and spiders, and when we were in the process of helping my parents move house, he moved a box, and I was joking, oh, if you're lucky, you'll have a snake or a spider behind it. He got both in one go. And you know what the animals want to do in Australia, right? Kill you, yes. So, he's still alive, but the animals in Australia are extremely dangerous. We've got more dangerous animals in Australia than most other places in the world, and yet we still manage to have a population of, I think it's about 21 million at the moment, somehow. Anyway, to talk about fear, did you know that more people rate public speaking as the highest fear, even higher than being killed by these deadly animals in Australia? So, to actually stand up on a stage and speak is a bigger fear for most people. Now, those of you who raised your hands, that's great, you're well on the way, and I really hope to see you up here at some stage and taking every opportunity to share your knowledge and getting up and speaking about it. Who would be terrified to get up here? Yeah. I'll share with you, so am I sometimes. My knees are actually shaking still. I have had years and years and years of practice, and I don't know why, but there is something about standing here and having everybody look at you. The last time I was on this stage was about 2 weeks ago. I just graduated from my master's, also here, so I work here part-time, and thank you. Oh, thank you. So for the last few years, I've been studying a Master's in International Communication Management part-time and teaching here part-time. I teach e-business and IMC. So for the first years, I'll see you next year or in the ICP week soon. But I stood up here and I brought my 2 children on stage with me who are 8 and 10. And that speech that I did with them up on stage, my 8-year-old said, I'll come as long as I don't have to say a word. So she's only about this high, so she kind of stood here. And my 10-year-old said a sentence into the microphone at the end, and everyone went, ah. But who's Dutch? How many of you are echt Nederlanders? Who has done a spreekbeurt at school? Yay! My daughter wants to do her next spreekbeurt on raccoons for some bizarre reason, but a spreekbeurt for the non-Nederlanders is you start in, I think it's group 5, am I correct? Group 5, about 8. So my 8-year-old has to prepare for a 10-minute presentation. It's part of your Dutch education. Who is not from the Netherlands and never had to do a speech through their education? Yeah, a few of you. Which countries are you from? Somalia? Yeah, where else? What other countries? I'm pretty sure in China, do you need to do presentations? Hang on 2 seconds, let's get a microphone. Those of you who have never done presentations, I'm going to throw you in the deep end. But I'm just curious, around the world, is public speaking part of, you can just say 3 words, but was public speaking or doing a presentation in front of a group part of your education? Who's a no? Maybe I should do it the other way. The yes. Those who are more confident, did you feel that it's helped the rest of your education?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Okay, good. So we'll come back to that. So anyway, it's about conquering the fear. So whoever you have as guest speakers up here are people who have had to conquer that fear at some stage in their life. Whether it was very early on and at school they've learned, or they've had to learn later. And having taught here for 3-4 years now, I can see it comes much more naturally to some people than others, but I don't mind standing here and sharing. I still get super nervous about it. I have a new project coming up outside, because I also work as a freelancer, and I am about to do 4 presentations on behalf of Google, 2 in Amsterdam in a beautiful old church to 200 students at the University of Amsterdam and University of Tilburg. I have to speak for 4 hours with 15-minute breaks. So I think it's a little long, and I'm going to give them that feedback because I like to talk, but that's a long time to sit and listen to somebody. And those of you who are year 2 now, we're doing the Google Digital Garage, and my thesis was on blended learning. I believe in a mix. But anyway, that's a bit of a personal background of how I got on stage. It's fine to be nervous, but if you learn how to do that, you will make a much bigger difference in your career. It can be formal or informal. It can be just in your group work, for example. There's lots of different ways and styles of presenting. So who's heard of an elevator pitch? Yeah? I'm not going to play this one for you, but this woman does an elevator pitch in an elevator. This is an Australian, and I can share the link. But she actually gets in an elevator, and in the 1 minute it goes up, she talks about who she is and what her business does. So that's something that you're taught in a lot of business and as business students, being able to sum up in 1 minute who you are and what you do, as though you're stuck in an elevator with someone and you're telling them. Where else do you need to pitch and present? Have I forgotten anything? Can anyone add anything? So working in a group, you need to be able to speak up and have your ideas heard. But it also works the flip way. You also need to listen to others and what they're saying. Asking for money and investors from a bank, that might be one of the most important pitches or presentations some of you do. Winning clients. Every client, including the Google project that I'm doing, I've had to pitch and present to win that contract. I've worked with other organisations like the Australian Embassy, and every time I needed to speak and get my ideas across. Organisations, interviews, job interviews. Who's done a job interview? Yeah, and you'll certainly do another one in your life. So you've all got a lot of experience already, but speaking well can be the difference between getting the job or not. I know in which module was it? In Beck, you'll be watching Dragon's Den, which is a really good example of pitching and presenting. And it is relevant to everybody. Absolutely everybody should learn and improve. And even if you're a great speaker, you can continually improve. It'll often make the difference, like I just said, whether you get support from somebody or not, get the job or not, loan investment or not, or convince others. It can also change the world. I'm just going to show you a couple of minutes video about some of the great speeches that have literally changed the world. Let's see if we get an ad first, or we get to go straight to it. No, an ad. No.
I have fought against white domination, and I have against black domination. I have cherished the idea of a democratic and free society in which all persons live together in harmony and with equal opportunity.
We shall fight in France. We shall fight on the seas and oceans. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender.
I am talking about genuine peace, the kind of peace that makes life on earth worth living, the kind that enables men and nations to grow and to hope, and build a better life for their children. Not merely peace for Americans, but peace for all men and women. Not merely peace in our time, but peace in all time.
I have a dream. My poor little children one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
Through our pain, we will make them see their injustice, and it will hurt, as all fighting hurts. But we cannot lose. We cannot. They may torture my body, break my bones, even kill me. Then they will have my dead body, not my obedience.
Who can read Spanish? Yeah, so you guys knew exactly what was going on. It was Spanish, correct? Portuguese. Ah, sorry. Who can read Portuguese? Okay, so you guys knew what was going on. I don't know how those subtitles ended up, but anyway. So have your say and listen to others. Share your story. We will be finding people to get up here and share their stories with you. We want to make it interesting for you, so we'll be asking for your feedback, so please give us your feedback of what you think of the speakers. I'm going to give you a few more tips and experience that I've had with public speaking, and talk about a few challenges and top tips and a few of the connections that I've got which may possibly come and speak to you. But it's also, speaking is also about listening. Are you born a good speaker? I don't believe so. I think some have a natural advantage and are better at it than others, but it's definitely something that can be learned. And like I talked about with what you do at school, culture can play a big part in whether you do this or not. Challenges. So 5 of those people that were quite happy to get up here. Can I have 5 of you up here, please? Okay. You've got the mic, yeah. Okay, one, just a moment. Hi. Hello. Hi. 3, 2 more. Oh, some really don't want to speak. 4, 1 more. Not just yet. You'll get up there in a minute. Just wait.
One more.
One more. All right, before you can get on the stage, I'm going to take you outside for a minute, and I'm going to give you some instructions. And you're not going to know what they know, and you're going to be told something that they don't know. So just talk amongst yourselves for a minute. I'll be back in just a moment after I give them their instructions. Cool.
Amongst yourselves. It's very interesting how many stay over. I know it's lunchtime, but the urge to go eat is very strong.
They're just hidden outside for a minute. For you guys, there's going to be 5 speakers. They're going to speak for around about 15 seconds each. 15, 20 seconds or so. It's just as an example. For the first 4, I'd like you to pay them as much attention as possible, please. Look at them. The 5th one, I want everyone to pull out their laptops, mobile phones, whatever, okay? Give the 5th person no attention, okay?
One small question before we start.
Yes.
The one we're speaking about another language.
Yeah.
How many seconds do I have?
How many would you guys like? Is 15 enough? Do you want 20 each?
2 seconds?
15, 20 seconds?
Just 1 minute.
You want a whole minute? Might be
Oh, he's
when
gonna
there's
take
5
a-
of
he's
you.
gonna take a-
Let's
he's gonna keep on going.
15. Okay, but you're the one
But how
going
do
over,
we-
right? So yeah, you do.
How do we
whatever.
switch from one person
I
to
will.
another?
I will set a timer.
Okay.
All right. I would like to introduce to you the very brave students that have come up, and the first speaker is here for you. So each of them, I was going to do about 15-second timer, but I've got a minimum of 1 minute. So I will say ding when your 15 seconds is up. Okay, so ready, set,
Yes.
go.
Wait. Diplomacy. He has ample knowledge and experience of cultural differences among countries in general and in intercultural management in particular, enabling him to be a good negotiator and
Ding. Round of applause. Thank you very much. Speaker number 2.
Oh, hey guys! Okay, what my thing is about public speaking is I look at all your lovely faces and get your energy. Somewhat more. It's good spirit, it's good energy. So if you have that energy when you're on stage, your stage is yours. This is my thing, it's your territory. And you can speak about anything what you love, what you're passionate about, what you love. You certainly love something if you love horses or ponies.
All right, ding.
Or anything. You can just do anything and everything. And just take it completely in. Just take it completely in. Even yourself.
All right, ding. All right, thank you very much. Thank you. Come. All right, and a round of applause for our 3rd speaker.
Bom dia. Meu nome é Ana Karina Montana Garcia. Então, me asseguro que você não está compreendendo meu aqui. Behalve se não cortou, Ok. A mim só pode ir para de 5 minutos, de 5 segundos. Terwijl je não está compreendendo, dus hopelijk que você está compreendendo.
All right, ding.
Klaar.
Yeah. Well done. Okay, and a round of applause for speaker number 4.
Hey guys, my name's Kevin Carty. I'm a singer-songwriter from Curacao. I love country music. Who loves country music here? One person, one taker, all right. I expected that, to be honest. Country's probably not very big in this country. So, anyways, I want to speak to you about the guitar. Guitar is a very nice instrument for singer-songwriters. You can write your music. It actually works very, very well. Piano as well.
And ding!
You guys
well
know-
done. Thank you very much. And our final speaker, a round of applause. Oh, where's the... You can talk about anything. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kareem. I'm going to just read out a small excerpt out of the book. So, The professional field of the IBMS graduate is both broad and international in practice. This means that his activities will constantly involve international contact, demanding special knowledge and skills in various fields, such as intercultural revisions and international trade. Flexibility and adaptability are more core elements of his activities. Every assignment will be different, and you'll have to use his reliability, empathy, and power of persuasion.
Ding, well done. Thank you. Great, thank you guys. I'll come out here, and I'd like to ask you how that experience was for you. Where's speaker number 1? Okay. Yeah. How do you feel? Was it?
Well,
and let's ask the audience. Can
you always get a little bit nervous when you're going to start talking in front of an audience. Yeah. But when you have to pretend to be nervous, it gets even worse.
Now, do you know what I asked him to do? Can any of you guess? Because you don't know what the 5 speakers were doing. Can anyone guess what he had to do, one of the top 5 challenges for speakers? Yep, he said nervous, but there was something really specific about being nervous. Yeah,
a lot of ums and ahs.
Yeah, exactly. So well done, you guessed that. But that is one of the top challenges for speakers, particularly non-native speakers. And there is a public speaking organisation I'll talk about a bit later called Toastmasters, and they have an counter at each meeting. And sometimes you are amazed how many ums you throw in. I saw actually quite a high-level speaker recently. There must have been, every 2 minutes, there would have been about 25 ums, and it can be very, very distracting. So I still throw them in, but sometimes when you're not sure what to say, just pause for a minute is a good way to combat that. So thank you very much. Great job.
No problem.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Next one, can you guess what he was asked to do?
Hello.
One of the second challenges for speakers. That's an excellent one we can add. But what was he specifically asked to do? Yeah, don't stop. Going over the time limit. Have you ever been to a lecture where it should be done, but it's not, and it just never, ever, ever, ever ends? So that's something that a lot of people do. So find out what the time limit is and stick to it when you're speaking. Thank you very much.
Stop at the high point, you know, like boom. And not go, if it goes right lower, and finish, just finish.
Great, thank you.
And
And speaker 3, can you guess what she was asked to do? There's a talk fast and another language.
Yeah,
so
that was pretty obvious.
Yeah, 2 of them, you're right about the talk fast. I didn't have it on my list, but that's something I'm guilty of a lot. And in another language. So I've put language, but language can also mean understanding your audience. It's not as simple as speaking another language. It sounded beautiful, but I had no idea what she was saying. When the guest speakers come and speak to you, they'll be asked to understand a little bit about who you are and what you want to hear. I've been to presentations that were completely inadequate and not suitable for the audience. Okay, did you want to add anything? How was it?
Right. I don't know what to say. I mean, it was Papiamento from Curacao, if anybody wanted to know, our native language. I mean, Bonaire and Aruba, so there you go.
Lovely, thank you. And number 4, this is a little trickier. What did you think that he was asked to do? Talk about something unrelated. Yep, good. So some other... He moved a lot. Okay, that's another one about moving. Moving can be a positive thing. It can also detract. What I specifically asked him was to not have a clear goal and just kind of ramble on about anything. But that's another mistake that a lot of speakers make. And the final one.
Hello.
Do you know what I asked him to do? Read, yeah. And do you know what I asked them to do for you? Yeah. I specifically asked him to read, so he probably wasn't aware of what you were doing, and I mean, this is tough, he's just been thrown into it. But have you ever been in a lecture or a presentation where the speaker doesn't even look at you or make eye contact? I'm trying to do that, but I keep forgetting about you guys up there, I'm sorry. Hi. So making eye contact is a good tip, but yes, they were asked to all pull out a laptop or a smartphone and not look at you. So that is one of my hardest challenges as a teacher. I'm very used to talking to the back of a laptop. Personally, because I love e-business and I love social media, and I'm often as a student on my computer, I'm not one of the teachers that's going to tell you to put it away. But when you're speaking, it's important to be aware that you guys as an audience have a big part in it as well. There's a big feeling when you're speaking of how the audience engage with you or look at you or don't look at you. So you have a lot of power. My very first week teaching here, I was doing, one of my first weeks teaching ICP, and there were some students just sitting up there that did not look at the speaker once, and not only that, were talking the whole way through, which is fine, but it's extremely distracting for the guest speakers that we get up here. So more than happy for you guys to discuss the lecture, but when someone's speaking, I don't think you realise sometimes when you're up there, when you're talking, how difficult it is up here. Great, so thank you very much. Big round of applause for these guys. So that's just a visual demonstration of the top 5 challenges that I came up with. But you added a lot of really good ones to that as well. I've lost my clicker. Here it is. So top 10 tips. These are things that I've learned. I do the public speaking training for the master's program for the finance students. And I believe that you're never perfect as a public speaker. You'll always make some mistakes. And I am sure I've gone and seen the man up the back of there who's recording this. And I watch through my lectures and I cringe when I see myself and pick out all these mistakes every time. But I think you just keep working on things. I've worked on these, breathing. I try to remember. Sometimes I forget and almost hyperventilate up here. But whenever I take a break, just breathing. It sounds really simple and stupid, but it helps. Preparing for these lectures in advance as much as possible. Sometimes you need to speak at very short notice, but you will feel a lot better the more that you prepare. And just practicing. If you have the opportunity or it's a really big presentation, practice either in front of the mirror, video yourself, and just watch or get someone to listen to you. Know your audience, I talked about that already, try and understand. I know you guys, particularly first-year students, and you get a lot of information all the time. So we try to build in things like I just did to make it a bit more fun and interactive for you. Have clear goals. So you'll notice that most presenters, and very good ones, will say at the beginning, this is what I'm going to talk about. They'll talk about it, and then they'll round it up at the end. Take the audience on a journey, have a very clear beginning, middle, and ending. This is something I need to work on. I can tend to go all over the place sometimes, but I still try to have a clear plan. Have a backup plan. USB, Dropbox with your presentation. Check all the technology as much as possible beforehand, because when you're up here, there's so many things that can go wrong that you need to think through what can go wrong and how will I deal with it if that happens. You'll notice that both of us have done this already, shared our personal story. It's much easier to connect with people if you talk a little bit about things that have happened to you personally instead of just rattling off information. I always have notes with me, but I'm learning to not read them. I used to kind of be behind them like this. And the fake it till you make it. I have been absolutely floored at how many times I've got up, done a presentation, thought, oh my God, that was just like, I could have done that so much better, and people will compliment me on it. And I'm just thinking, really? What were you thinking? But you'll be surprised that if you get up here and do those things, people won't know how nervous you are often. Just a few tips. Can anyone see who that is and where he is? Can you give the microphone to someone? Who is it?
That's the king.
Yeah, that's the king. And where is he?
Is talk? Was it TED Talk?
Yeah, he's right here.
Is he on stage?
He's right. He was right here.
He is on stage.
Yeah. Yay! Good thing there's no prizes.
Hard work.
He sat actually almost exactly where you were sitting, and I was a couple of rows back when he opened the academic year. I think it was 2 years ago now. And I remember looking at his hair and thinking how neat, incredibly neat his hair was. But the thing that really struck me is how much presence. You hear this thing, stage presence? I mean, the man's the king. You've got to have some element of presence. But just when he walked up, and when he walked up, we were all briefed that there was nothing specific we needed to do, but everyone stood up, and he's like, no, you can sit, you can sit down. But he just has a really lovely manner about him. And he's himself, well, as much of himself as we get to see, but you have to figure out what your presence is and kind of own it. I talk a little bit fast, but I'm a native English speaker, so I need to work on that. But it's part of my style. The enthusiasm and the flow is part of how I teach. And you'll notice that with your teachers. Everyone's got different teaching styles and everyone has different presenting styles. But you need to know who you are and what works for you and not try and kind of copy someone else if it doesn't fit your style. We're running out of time. I was going to show you this, but I think we'll put it in the Facebook group. But I'll talk about TED. Who's been, hang on, let's do it this way around. Who's watched a TEDx talk or a TED talk online? They're pretty big now. For those of you who haven't or just aren't brave enough to put up your hand, they're a presentation no more than 20 minutes, which I think is awesome. I think if you can say what you need to say, I've stretched it out for a bit longer now, but say it in 20 minutes is fantastic and why I think they've become so popular. Has anyone been to a live TEDx event? Only no one. Excellent. Which one did you go to? TEDx? Oh, a copy. Okay. Real TEDx talks are amazing. I've been to about 10 now in the Netherlands, and I'm planning on getting on the stage, hopefully next year, at TEDx Amsterdam Education. Oh, not yet. Not yet. But a lot of practicing what I preach first. I want to talk about e-learning, my thesis, and how e-learning offers flexibility. But TED talks are amazing, but there's a big difference between watching it on a screen and watching someone live, which is exactly why we want to run these guest lectures for you and get people here. But if you can get to a TEDx event, there's ones in Amsterdam, Delft hold one every second year, I think. They're really great. And I'm sure everyone's got a favorite TED talk, and we use them a lot in education now, but this is a really good one that we'll share the link for. Not black. Did you know that TEDx speakers have speaker trainers? So every TEDx speaker has a trainer, and I'm friends with a couple of them. So this is one lady. She's an American lady based in the Netherlands. I'm trying to get her in to speak to you. And she's written a book called Boring to Brilliant about how, just lots of tips and lots of pictures of how to improve public speaking. Another one based here in The Hague is Jonathan Talbot. And he says any speaker should do 3 things. Cover what do you want the audience to know, what do you want them to do, and why should they care? So what I want you to know is that public speaking and presenting is extremely important to learn, but also to analyse other people. So when we get guest speakers up here for you, not just tell us, oh, they were good, they weren't so good. What did you really like about them? Because they'd like the feedback as well. What did you not like so much? So that we can put together an increasingly amazing program for you guys. What do you want them to do? Well, what I want you to do for today is think about, throughout your whole studies here, how you can improve your speaking. Whether you're as confident as some of these guys that got up here, or whether it terrifies you, you'll need to speak. And there's one particular time you will have to speak in your 4th year. Do you know what I'm thinking of? Thesis. I did that about 2 months ago myself, and I have never been so nervous in my life. I recorded it as well. If you want to see my own thesis presentation, it's at my website, zesty.com, and I recorded my speech here. I thought my voice wobbled so much that you couldn't understand me, but when I watched it back, it was kind of bearable. But what I want you to do is think about who you want to speak to you, who you want to hear, and get you up here as well. Why should you care? Because this is important to your life. This will make the difference in the careers that you get, how much money you make, what jobs you get, and your thesis. Toastmasters. Has anyone heard of the Hague University Toastmasters? It meets here at the university every Wednesday. This grew out of an e-business class I had 2 years ago where you used to have to do a pitch presentation. We don't do that in e-business anymore because there's just too much in in one module, but I highly encourage you to go along, and they will come and speak to you one Monday as well. These are just a few ideas. If you want something specific to start, I'd think about, I've got assignment 1 in here because this used to be part of e-business, but think about what your challenges are, think about tips you're going to keep in mind, and find pictures or presentations or watch the guest lectures and think about what makes them work and what doesn't. You can give me feedback. I'm more than happy to have honest feedback. You can come and see me in Consult Hour, here now, online in the Facebook groups. Please see your schedule and the e-newsletter for future guest lectures. And I really appreciate your attention today. I hope you've learned something. Does Ms. Fabon want to add anything else? No?
Go have lunch.
Yes. Oh, she's going to be the popular one now. Thank you.